something wasn't right.
Numerous tests. No one even thought that she would walk.
She didn't communicate with others very much.
I'm Tori and I'm 8 years old.
Tori's a really social little girl. She loves playing with other kids. She likes playing with her brother. She loves singing and dancing.
Outside of school, I do Girl Scouts and dance and play outside with my friends.
She played soccer through the Sports Unity program, and she plays basketball. She does cheerleading. She recently started doing Girl Scouts, and she did baseball in the fall, and she just loves being a kid, loves playing with other kids.
Very early on with Tori, we noticed that something wasn't right. My sister-in-law actually was the first one to notice it when Tori was only 2 or 3 weeks old, that one side of her face didn't look right. And a little while later, at about 5 weeks, she was diagnosed with torticollis, which is a turning of the head from in utero. The PT that worked with her didn't feel that that was a proper diagnosis. She didn't present with all the traditional symptoms of torticollis. And then at 8 weeks old, Tori had an episode where she was crying and it appeared as though she had a stroke. One side of her face was crying, the other side of her face hadn't moved. And then it stopped. The next day we had an appointment with her pediatrician, and we went to the pediatrician. He immediately sent us down to Children's Hospital Philadelphia, where she was ultimately diagnosed with a cavernoma, which is a malformation of veins that was on her brainstem.
At the time, actually, they weren't sure what it was. They had thought that it was a brain tumor, and after seeing the neurosurgeon, he did give us a diagnosis, and they thought that it was a malignant brain tumor. And so they decided to go in and do surgery. It was a Friday morning that they did the surgery. I believe that the surgery was somewhere around a 5 or 6 hour surgery. And he went in and he removed this mass. And it wasn't until he went in to remove it that he discovered that it wasn't, in fact, the malignant brain tumor, that it was the cavernoma. And so after removing it, it left her with some residual nerve damage that at the time we didn't know, but after about a year or so, they were able to do some tests, and she's paralyzed on one side of her face. She has a couple nerve palsies that cause her to not be able to blink her eye. She doesn't have peripheral vision in her one eye, and then it actually causes her to have some muscle weakness also on her on one side of her body.
In the time since then, she had a nerve transplant where they took a nerve out of her leg, implanted it in her face with the hopes of gaining back some nerve function in the paralyzed part of her face, which was mildly successful. She's had eye muscle surgery, she's had Botox, she had some fluid on the brain as a result of her surgery and had to have that fluid drained. And we don't know what the future holds as far as future surgeries that she may need as well.
She got speech therapists came, I believe, once a week. We had an occupational therapist that came once a week, physical therapist that came once a week, and in addition, she also went for outpatient physical therapy at CHOP. And that continued until she was 3, which is when she aged out of early intervention. And during that time, while she was with early intervention, she, most of her developmental skills were delayed. So she didn't crawl until she was probably about 18 months. She didn't stand up, when she was, I'm not even sure how old she was when she stood up independently. I always believed that she would walk, but nobody ever gave us any indication that she would. until probably she started to walk with the walker and became, she actually became mobile at that point. When Tori first started school at 3, she was mostly being transported in a wagon, and probably around 3.5, 4, she started to use a walker more independently. And she probably didn't start to become an independent walker, fully independent, until she was 5.5.
I've worked with Tori since she came to Rice School in our early intervention preschool program. She came right after her 3rd birthday, and I worked inside her classroom as her one-on-one classroom aide assistant.
I started working with Tori when she was 3 years old. She came into this program and she was just starting to sit by herself. We started doing physical therapy 2 times a week. We worked on strengthening and balance and coordination, and she worked incredibly hard. She's probably one of the hardest working kids that I've ever had in my career. You know, what she's given back to me more than I've given her. It has been so unbelievably rewarding seeing what Tori has done in her short little life. She's so incredibly motivated and hardworking. We've gone from just, you know, pulling to standing, holding on to furniture, to walking with a walker. And then she progressed to using crutches, and now she's to the point where she's pretty much walking with no assistive device whatsoever. It's just pretty amazing. And you know, there were times when I first met Tori and her mother, no one even thought that she would walk, which is just unbelievable. And I remember the first time seeing her saying, you know what, I think we're going to just push her, and I think we're going to get her up.
I work hard in the physical therapy to get stronger.
It's been an awesome experience to see how she's developed through the years, and I've followed her all the way up now. She's in 2nd grade. So she is a very determined little girl, motivated and works really hard, and it's been a joy to work with her.
I think my mom and dad are proud of me.
As she got a little bit older and she started to develop this personality, she never let her limitations stop her. She's the most determined kid I've ever met. It didn't matter that she couldn't walk. She wanted to go outside and play with the other kids and do what they were doing. She didn't even know that she couldn't do it. Nothing ever stopped her, and I don't think anything ever will stop her. She doesn't care what anybody else is doing. She wants to do it. If the other kids are running down the street, she's gonna run down the street. If she falls, she gets up. Tori never cries. She runs, she's fallen down the steps. She says, I'm okay. She runs into walls, I'm okay. She wants to go back and do more. There's nothing that has ever stopped her. No limitation, no physical limitation that she has ever had has ever stopped her from getting what she wants in her life. I want Tori to be like every other kid. I want Tori to grow up and be happy. I want her to run up and down the street like all the other kids do. I want her to go to school and walk down the hallway and carry her books. Things that most parents don't have to think about for their kids, things that we take for granted. Those are the things I want for Tori, in addition to all the things that any parent would want. I want her to go to college. I want her to get married. I want her to have a job. I want her to be a success in her life. But most of all, I really want her to be happy with herself and what she can do.